in the black market of Tokyo. This arc kicks off when Makoto reveals that she has a recording that incriminates you as the Phantom Thieves and uses this to blackmail you to have you look into an issue of students from the school being taken advantage of in the red light district. Yusuke once again proving to be the only character with a brain and says that this recording of you talking about being Phantom Thieves is not enough evidence to incriminate you, and they absolutely have no way to prove how you change hearts. Everyone just seemingly forgets that you go to a magical other dimension to fight a caricature of evil people and steal their most desired items. But of course, everyone ignores this and decides to go along with Makoto anyways because the
say that they do get captured by the police and interrogated. They're either going to be locked up because their stories don't match, or they're going to try to figure out exactly what's going on. And if 4 people do go, we go into a magical world, they're going to go, show me. And then you're going to either be forced to show them or not. But either way, it's not going to end up good for you. There's no good that comes from her going to police with that evidence.
Even if it isn't, and the police just simply investigate you, that means people have an eye to you. So literally anything can happen. It could just be a student just like looking at you do your Phantom Thief stuff. Like, and especially if the cops come to interrogate or investigate you and word passes around school, all of a sudden everyone's looking at you like, oh, did you hear they're the Phantom Thieves? No, and then what are you gonna do? You gotta chill out for like 5 months?
It's no good can come from her giving that to anybody.
plot needs them to agree so the story can move forward.
Okay.
Okay. What's the issue of not doing what she wants since it's a person that's blackmailing people anyway?
Yes.
It's the type of person they would change the heart of. It's not like
hoping.
Yeah, it's not like they're in conflict with their core beliefs or anything.
Forward. Before getting into the investigation, it's worth looking at why any of this is happening. Up to this point, there's been occasional scenes where the school's Humpty Dumpty looking principal that's straight out of Spirited Away has asked Makoto to look into things because of her role as the student council president, namely the Phantom Thieves and the Red Light District student disappearances, and threatens her by saying he will not give her a letter of recommendation for university.
So, weren't you so mad that Makoto seemed to be the one equipped, not some police or whatever, to help old girl with and investigate the Red Light District when she was literally given that job?
That's fine. It's it's a problem now, and that's a problem with this. You know this whole, you know how this goes. It's a problem because it's a problem.
Sort these cases out. This is yet again another case of the game's anime roots clashing with the desire to show darker, realistic scenarios. The Student Council
What? So, do you believe that anime can't show dark things? Or
I don't know what I saw Satsuki Kiryuin, so just go ahead and play that because we're gonna get his point.
The Student Council president having power over the entire school and unrealistic expectations is another trope that comes from a lot of anime. But
Kiryuin's family owned that stuff.
That right there is a terrible example because that's a magical school with magical people flying around. And that's the thing where the clothing, your rank equals power in the school. So of course the people with the highest rank are going to be the people with the highest clothing and going to be the people with the highest power. So that's a terrible example. Go with something else, but
go with some typical slice of life.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like
Medaka Box.
I watch a lot of them, and I'm like, there's none really that has control. No.
I was saying that Medaka Box is much more like a typical, like, hey, you're the student council president. What do you mean that?
Yeah,
you picked one example, and it was a terrible example.
And he said typical and shonen, and he showed a really bad example. And he didn't even explain it. He just went, here's somebody doing something.
But in the case of Persona 5, where the game is mostly rooted in reality and attempts to be mostly realistic outside of the metaverse and everything surrounding it, this just doesn't fit at all.
You really think Persona 5 is realistic?
Outside of the metaverse, apparently.
Dude, an ex-Yakuza member sells you fake guns to a 16-year-old boy. your teacher dresses up as a maid and cleans for you so you can wander the streets at night.
Futaba is an unrealistic hacker. It's realistic, though.
It's impossible to believe that a 17-year-old student would have the sole responsibility of literally tracking down a mafia boss and criminals that have not even been able to be caught.
She wasn't tasked with tracking down a mafia boss. She was tracked with, hey, what's going on with our students going into this bad area? And hey, the Phantom Thief took down a teacher. Well, let's investigate this.
Plus an art powerhouse.
No, off rip. It's the teacher in our school. It's not even like, it's a teacher way over there and you should go investigate that school and their Phantom Thieves. This happened here. What are they?
But it could be seen that the principal was like, okay, they're taking out people with power and eventually going to get to Kamoshida because Kamoshida is dirty. I'm already feeling it. It's
Mafia boss and criminals that have not even been able to be caught by the police. Even knowing Principal Kawabunga is in cahoots with Shido and is a corrupt piece of shit, after Makoto continuously shows to be incapable of catching the Phantom Thieves and these crime bosses all on her own, why would Humpty Dumpty not go and get other people to help?
Pause! What other people? Who? Where do you start if you're gonna get quote-unquote other people?
Makoto has been shown to be very driven and very, pleasing to authority figures. He's constantly just like, oh, this isn't going to look good on a review. And if you want that review for that college, hey, and your sister's going to be disappointed in you if you don't. He's constantly hanging these little tidbits of things over her head. And she's going, I have to go even harder. You're not going to find another Makoto. Who you getting?
Seriously.
And as far as Shido goes, it's not like he went, hey, this might be a problem. And Shido was like, okay, let me send a bunch of people. Shido went, that don't matter to me.
If they're suspected to be students, of course you're going to send a student council. What are you going to do? Send a bunch of people with guns? It's going to be like that one scene with Gretchen and Recess.
Where she writes the thing on the
perpetual motion device.
And it's just like one bad click, click, erase.
Hey, what's going on?
It actually puts out more energy than it puts in. Kaboom! What a recess, so good.
But yeah, what do you expect?
Being competent so that he fails, which is the reason that
she caught them.
Yeah, that's the funny part. She did
it, and she led to the boss getting taken down.
So yeah, what's funny is he was right.
He accomplished the mission that was set out for her.
Good job, principal. You picked the right person.
Killed by Shido, which plays a larger part in the story later in the game. Okay, even accepting Principal Eggman's contrived demands and inclusion into the story, no student would ever accept this. And
Makoto would, because you know what? You say you understand the character of Makoto and you like her. Can you not see why an authority figure gives her a task and she wouldn't go, yes sir, let me get on that immediately?
the school students being involved, this is barely a concern for the school at all. It only gets worse when you realize that this isn't just the case.
It's not a concern that a bunch of our students are going into the red light district.
That's the concern.
It's not a concern that one of our own teachers was taken down by these so-called phantom thieves.
And the people were looking the other way for his indiscretions. So he had a good place in the school. He was there for a reason. He had that status, and they took away that status. So that's just a bump. And plus, your school now got a red mark with all that sexual assault stuff.
So get him at all. It only gets worse when you realize that this isn't just the case of the principal being corrupt and Makoto being a pushover, but that this is supposedly normal in this world. When you walk to school, you occasionally get scenes of students reacting to story elements, and during this arc, various students bring up the fact that Makoto is supposed to be doing something about this, when this problem is clearly a matter of the police.
It's almost, what? No. It's almost like Makoto real reliable. And it's not a matter for the police until they gather enough evidence to get the police involved. Because if the police just go down to the red light district and it's just like, oh, they're just going to this cafe that's open for everybody. What you want us to do? And if it's like the Phantom Thieves, oh, we really believe in that? Nah, son, we not coming here.
Everything just comes down to call the police.
And again,
there's no game like that.
Persona 5 is about how the world is not reacting to these injustices that these adults are doing. So why would a bunch of Phantom Thieves call the police?
One kid even goes, I hate a student council president with no focus, as if that's supposed to make any fucking sense. You get multiple scenes where students go up to Makoto and
You think there's not a kid out in this world that's going, a student council president with no focus should not be the president?
Makes sense.
Of the billions of children that have ever went through just right now. Not even talking about the potential dozens of billions that have lived throughout the entire history of the world. There is not a single one that has said something like that.
And it's weird because she's putting all of her focus into tracking down the Phantom Thieves and the Red Light District stuff. So you gotta assume that people come up like, hey, the soccer team needs more funding or something like that. And she's like, yeah, sure, whatever. So she's lacking focus and they're expressing their concern about that. I see nothing wrong.
You get multiple scenes where students go up to Makoto and expect her to do something about this, even if they're not involved in being harassed. They're just like, why aren't you doing anything about this, Makoto? The students are being preyed on.
Yes. Why aren't you student council president? Why aren't you head of all students?
This is never addressed in the story, so we just have to work with what the game gives us and assume that this is normal in the Persona 5 world. In your investigation,
what wasn't addressed? The Red Light District stuff? Because Kaneshiro was taken down.
I guess what he means wasn't addressed was that how the students react and expect all of this out of just a student council president when they really should hold no real power.
What?
you find that Kaneshiro has been blackmailing students for money, and that he has a palace. The other villains thought that they had power over one specific building, but Kaneshiro thinks that all of Shibuya is his bank. So his palace is a floating bank over the city, where he sees everyone as walking ATMs to suck money away from. The Phantom Thieves figure all this out while standing in the middle of a park, and decide to warp into the palace while completely out in the open because, and I quote, nobody notices if a piece of trash disappears from a trash can. Not only does this not make any fucking sense, since anyone looking in their general direction will see them just disappear out of thin air, but Morgana has explicitly stated
that guy is not looking at them.
No, it's not.
They're hidden behind some trees as far as his view goes.
The way that make no mistake, that is pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The way that it's framed right now, nobody's looking at them. But yeah, no, that's bad.
They shouldn't be out in the open. But this is exactly why going to having Makoto go to the police and having people look at them would have been a bad thing, because they out in broad daylight going to the metaverse.
Especially since Yusuke saw them coming out, Akechi saw them coming out, in Royal somebody saw them coming out. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty confident to be like, hey, hop in, hop out wherever they go. So yeah, but no, this is pretty bad.
If they use the Metaverse app, it'll pull anybody nearby into the palace with them. But of course, the range of what pulls people in seems to be completely arbitrary to fit whatever the story needs to be at the time. Because apparently it was enough to pull in Anne, who was several feet away from them while they were hiding in the alley and she was around the building. But when they're in a crowded public place, it doesn't pull anyone.
To be fair, Anne looks a lot closer to them than these people. I went way too far. Than these people.
Plus, she's looking directly at them, and she can. Yeah. No, we don't know exactly the Metaverse app and everything. But
this very much seems like a plot convenience where it's just like whatever we need it to be at this moment.
It probably would have been better for them to like go behind a food truck or something. But it's not story breaking. It's just a pretty bad moment.
Place, it doesn't pull anyone else in. Of course, the reason why no strangers ever pulled in is because they're not needed for the plot. Both Anne and Yusuke were accidentally pulled in.
Yusuke was in the room right next to Anne.
Don't start this bush.
Dude, it's bad. He played the game twice. They say her name so much.
And it's so funny that he went, Sakamoto? But he's going Ann.
Because the story needed them to so they could join the party. This whole event is going to be very important later on, so I want you to keep this in mind. After exploring a bit, they decided they need to see the real Kanashiro to get more information, so they go back to their meeting place in the real world to figure things out. Makoto comes to them wanting to help, but the Phantom Thieves call her useless, triggering a flashback of her sister calling her useless, an event that happened literally the day before, which spurs Makoto into action.
What's the problem?
What's the problem? What's the problem with it happening the day before?
What's the problem with them flashing back for a quick, you're useless to me, and this is what's spurring her on to be that? Instead of her doing some action, them finding out, and then she going, well, my sister said I was useless the day before. There's no problem here.
This is no problem. It's just something.
Now, the last thing he talked about, we said it was a problem, and we agree with it.
But him just going, this happened yesterday. What's the point of even putting this in the video? It's not even a point. It's not a good point. It's not a bad point. It's not a point.
Remember earlier in the video during Makoto's S-Ling section, I mentioned that I thought that they showed Makoto struggling under the weight of expectations of everyone around her to be well executed at times, with emphasis on at times, and here's why. They go from well executed scenes where everyone's just kind of an asshole to Makoto, then they also have shit like this, which is Naruto level flashbacks of events that happened the day before when her sister insults her. Gee, it was really great of them to include this flashback of an event that happened not even 10 minutes earlier in the game, or else I might have not understood Makoto's motives. Again, reinforcing,
hey, general audiences can be pretty stupid.
They may not know that the whole useless thing is what's spurring her on.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the dialogue keeps going. Anything.
And dude, that was 5 seconds. You're useless to me. And then it comes back to reality. It's 5 seconds. It's nothing.
By that logic, what would be a adequate amount of time and distance from an event to where a flashback would be good in your eyes? Because it's bad in your eyes right now because it happened too early. So what would be...
Hang on. Okay. Wait... 6:11.
Oh.
6:20.
Oh, yeah, okay. So it happened 9 days before.
What? I can't. No. No.
Dude,
what do we do? What do we do from here?
You legit misrepresented that.
That's
flashbacks of events that happened the day before when her sister insults her. Gee, it was really great of them to include this flashback of an event that happened not even 10 minutes earlier in the game, or else I might have not understood Makoto's motives. Again, reinforcing the feeling that the game does not trust people to actually understand what's going on, so they just repeat the same shit a million fucking times. So Makoto then goes out to see Kanashiro, gets caught, and then when you attempt to save her, he blackmails you, asking
He blackmails you with a photo he will send to the school of you all drinking at the club, despite the fact that the photo shows them in the door frame, with no one question why the photo was taken from inside of the room out.
Why are you in the club?
Why are you in the club?
Number one.
You aren't supposed to be there. So why are you in the club?
You must have gotten in there. Being in the club, that's automatically illegal. You must have gotten in there with bribery, fake ID, some sort of way, sneaking in. No matter what, you're not supposed to be in there. Point blank period. Done. Doesn't matter where they are in the club. They could be in the bathroom. They're in the club. It's wrong. They're screwed. Not a point.
save her, he blackmails you asking for 3 million yen. So you leave his club, take Makoto to Kanashiro's palace, she awakens her persona, and you leave.
Joanna.
This is where Makoto asserts her superiority and basically becomes the new leader of the Phantom Thieves, as we've covered in her section earlier. Now all you have to do is steal his treasure so he'll stop asking for the money. Kanashiro's bank is a far cry from the first two, and nothing fits together nearly as well. The enemies you fight are all over the place, and honestly only work when I'm reaching to try to apply.
You showed basically 2 to 3 villains for the first 2 guys. And nothing, and you were already stretching with like Jack and Pixie, which have been in the games since the beginning.
They're enemies. Fight them, dude. It's a horse. It's whatever. Just fight. It's an enemy. You get this enemy. It's not everything can be.
Think could be the reason why they're included in this palace. You fight creatures like angels, Oni, Nekomata, High Pixie, and Orbis, but they don't really have
Hey, it sounds like that's a lot of Japanese mythology stuff going on.
that much connecting their theme together. Like I said a second ago, the reach that I think that can maybe apply them is the angel, Nekomata, and High Pixie are supposed to be his prostitutes you see he has at the club, and Oni is supposed to be his guards, but they still feel kind of like a reach. The only enemy
And the others weren't? And the Pixies weren't?
100% of a reach.
Dude, no matter what, you're reaching.
Yes.
that really makes sense is Orthus, which takes the role as the guard dog. When it comes to design, after getting past the opening lobby, the whole thing is made up of hallways and security rooms, requiring you to run around with Joker Vision on to find the correct electrical boxes to kick so you can move forward. The only decorations are these cartoonish bags of money that sit on pedestals, which are there so you could break them and get items to sell later at EY's shop, and the one artsy looking statue that shows
Did he
up
run
all
out
over
of
the
breath
place.
there? So you can get money to sell it. Did you run out of breath there or something?
Break them and get items to sell later at EY's shop, and the one artsy looking statue that shows up all over the place. The music here is also off-putting, consisting of a somewhat cool tune featuring an obnoxiously loud sounding instrument that sounds
Price is amazing. I will hear none of this. Price is a 5-star banger. Get this garbage out of here.
sounding
I'm getting so mad at dude. I love Price.
obnoxiously loud sounding instrument that sounds like a kazoo or a bagpipe. I don't fucking know, but it sounds really bad. It might have been fine if used sparingly, but hearing that awful noise come in to ruin the track every few seconds made this area
Oh,
such
look,
a
this has
chore
been
to go
going
through.
on for 10
The reach
seconds
in the
and it
deeper
hasn't
part
been
of the
going
dungeon, though,
come back yet. Every few seconds.
chore to go through. The remixes in the deeper part of the dungeon, though, sound really nice. The last section of this dungeon is a massive room where you need to rotate the walls to open a path.
Oh, it's not a
to the center,
hallway.
as if you were cracking a safe.
Whoops.
This sounds really
There's
cool in
also
theory,
a bunch
but
of wide open spaces with electrical fences. Not electrical fences. Some of those electrical wires.
Yeah,
things, sort of like there's a bunch of rooms like that.
Those red light lasers.
Yeah. So it's not just
cracking.
hallways. But it's
Safe.
easy to
This
say that it's all just hallways.
open a path to the center, as if you were cracking a safe. This sounds really cool in theory, but the way this is done is by going into side rooms in every section of the lock, finding a slip of paper that shows you some numbers being equal to some letters, and then solving a puzzle where an ATM will have a word on it that you need to match the correct numbers to. These aren't very engaging puzzles, but they get more complicated as the hints start becoming less and less obvious.
They're not engaging puzzles because you weren't engaged.
Yeah. Easy. Done.
What happens to the next person that is engaged? That's just one of those blanket terms that's made to make the game look worse than it actually is because you didn't find personal enjoyment in the section.
Puzzles, but they get more complicated as the hints start becoming less and less obvious, and it eventually does require some thinking. Then when you're halfway through to the center of the room, the ATMs just start simply being prompts which you could automatically open by hitting left and right. It baffles me that they, for some reason, decided to include something that resembles an actual puzzle in the game, only to drop it halfway through when it actually started to get interesting and engaging. If they were just going to drop it, why did they even have it at the start of the room to begin with? It's like there's no cohesive vision for the dungeon at all. Mechanics are introduced and dropped just as quickly with no explanation.
It
like
wasn't
usual.
dropped just as quickly. You got to a point where this puzzle section is now done, and now you're moving on to another puzzle section. But if it was 15 puzzles of just the numbers, you'd be like, oh, we have too many number puzzles.
There's no variety.
There's nothing. Oh, look at this! Persona 4 giant hallway! Whoa! Well, it looked like it was in the other games! You're not having an open world JRPG, homie!
Like usual, Persona 5 can't commit to anything, and after a few more button presses, you've reached the treasure of the...
Persona 5 can't commit to anything.
Has he displayed this? Has he given any proof for this? No, of course not. He just says it, drops it, and it would have been a lot better if he said, as evidenced by this, Persona 5 cannot commit to anything, but he just doesn't.
And after a few more button presses, you've reached the treasure of the boss. Before talking about Kanashiro's boss fight, there's something I need to mention here too. The safe combination room of the dungeon is also where we see Makoto start to take over other characters' roles and act smarter than everybody else. As the party is taking the elevator down...
She is smarter than everybody else.
Definitively.
She's more reliable.
Definitively.
She's more quick-witted.
Definitively.
You got An and Yusuke. An is a quoted airhead. Ryuji, I said Yusuke, sorry. Ryuji is very impulsive and not very smart. Yusuke gets distracted so much. And Joker just the analog for the character. So An is the shining light.
Makoto.
else. As the party is taking the elevator down to this room, Anne and Ryuji marvel at the number of vaults in the room, and then Makoto completely interrupts to say, if my prediction is correct, we won't need to check every single one of these small vaults. But that doesn't actually explain how she figured this out. Then once
if my theory is correct.
And why would Kanashiro keep his treasure in a small vault with all the other riffraff, with just a pile of 100,000 yen? Why would he keep his most valuable object in his mind with all the other crap? He would keep it in the center of his giant vault. Which it is.
Hypothesis correct.
She doesn't need to be a super genius to say that.
ATM puzzles, and it's already obvious what the deal with the room is. She stops the party to explain that this entire floor is the cylinder of a lock. But of course, this isn't enough to show how smart Makoto is. Every single party member is confused but slowly comes to agree with her as she explains more and more, as if it wasn't already clear by the fourth fucking...
It's almost like they're not thinking, they're just acting. They're not thinking about the way it opens and closes, because in their mind, that does not matter. The only thing that matters is opening it so they can progress to steal the treasure.
And also, this is also for you, the player. It's just like, what am I doing? Oh, so you're saying the floor was a giant lock. Okay, I see what I need to do now. In case you weren't paying attention, in case you didn't really understand it.
In case you hit that start button.
In case you saved and then came back a week later.
Once you open the last section of the room to get to the main safe, she then says, if my deductions are accurate, that should have been the final mechanism. No shit, Makoto. There's the fucking elevator.
Pause.
It's the same.
Where are they when she says that? Somewhere completely different. They can't see that. They couldn't see the giant elevator coming up.
Mechanism. No shit, Makoto. There's the fucking elevator.
And, did the elevator open up for the player before or after Makoto said that? Because you've been shuffling some of this editing around to the point where I don't know.
One day later.
It's the same thing with the dialogue trying to make a catchy sound smarter. Makoto's going, if my deduction is correct, this should be the end. What are you deducing? We saw
that it's the end. And you know what? She was right. That they don't have to go to a bunch of small vaults. And you know what? She was right. She didn't see the elevator come up. She didn't see all the crap in the other vaults. And she was right both times.
And it's also a pretty good setup for making Morgana feel useless. Because now you got this other strategist coming in and taking his job.
Oh, there was
and
5
she's amazing.
circles on the way down from the elevator. Basically, her deduction is, well, because I could count to 5, that must mean we're at the end.
Pause.
Remember how I mentioned?
You said that they did 4 number puzzles and then a bunch of left-rights. There's no indication that shows that each number puzzle equals a lock. Each left right equals a lock.
An unlocked cylinder part.
This is very frustrating, and I forgot how much it was frustrating.
The end. Remember how I mentioned that Morgana often explains the palace ruler's thoughts to the players? Well, Makoto now does that too. After Kaneshiro says, people who can't earn money are worthless to me, she explains that he really believes that money is more important than human lives. Thanks, Makoto. I really couldn't have figured that one out by myself.
It's almost like she's saying that to pity the guy and not to go, hey, player, this is what he really thinks. Because outward appearances, whatever. For all we know, he could be some gangster with a heart of gold. But it's like, no. It looks like he really does think this way. What a pitiful man.
And he's acting like we've never been sitting there watching the news and it's like, oh, double homicide. Like, why would they kill those people? That's terrible. They said double homicide and then you say double homicide. Is somebody gonna turn to you and go, hey, that was unnecessary to say. We got it. We understood.
I really couldn't have figured that one out by myself. The final thing that happens here that secures her as the only person that matters on the team comes in the treasure room, where with no explanation or any reason where she might have known this, she immediately understands that the treasure does not materialize unless the target is giving a calling card to scare them first, and takes over the responsibility of sending out the calling card. Back in the real world, Morgana even...
It's almost like she to do something because she's real smart.
She said, I see. So she was putting together the pieces. Plus, all the things that was said in these conversations with the Phantom Thieves. Her show, there were calling cards all over the school for Kamoshida. So now she goes, oh, I see, that's what the calling card was about.
Scare them first, and takes over the responsibility of sending out the calling card. Back in the real world, Morgana even says that Makoto truly is the brains of this Phantom Thieves operation. What a great character. Now the boss...
She is the brains of the operation. But the brains of the operation is not necessarily the person in charge. Again.
Here is nothing special. Kaneshiro turns from a blueberry into a fly that rides on top of a piggy bank, for some reason. But he's not tough to beat at all, since his only special move is pretty worthless. After the fight, you learn that there is someone else that's using the metaverse.
We learned about black masks back in Madarame's palace, but now we know they are criminals using it for gain.
Learn that there is someone else that's using the metaverse, but that they're a criminal using it for personal gain. The party once again takes a treasure and leaves, and Kaneshiro's treasure is a golden briefcase filled with Monopoly money with his face on it. As a villain, Kaneshiro is predictably weaker than Kamoshida, but he's also worse than Madarame. Like I mentioned before, the connection to the main characters had to Madarame wasn't that strong, but with Kaneshiro,
it was for Yusuke.
Mm-hmm. And this dude is the runner of the red light district, which ties directly into Makoto's story. And Makoto is a Phantom Thief, and they are students of the school that has a lot of students going to the red light district.
But with Kaneshiro, it's hard to care about him at all. We see him in person literally once the entire time, and even in that brief scene, it only happens because Makoto was being uncharacteristic.
The very first time I saw Kizaru, I went, this man is a monster and I love him. Sometimes all you need is one appearance
to make an impression.
And you in there.
Stupid to facilitate it. At least with
no.
Madarame.
She wasn't uncharacteristically stupid. She said, I need to figure out a way to get to him. And she did.
On top of that, she was being impulsive because she was just called useless by both the Phantom Thieves and her sister the day before.
It turned out pretty poorly, but they got the job done. And what do you mean uncharacteristically stupid? We had seen Makoto maybe 8 times before that?
Makoto was being uncharacteristically stupid to facilitate it. At least with Madarame, we got to see 2 of his victims, one which became a main party member, and we also saw how despite the way he acted, you did seem to genuinely care about Yusuke deep down. There's no real reason to give a shit about Kaneshiro when the only reason you're targeting him is because of Makoto.
He's a piece of crap. Let's get him out of here. Not everything needs to be a personal story for me to give a about them. I hate Toad Lady from Harry Potter.
Umbridge.
Yep, Umbridge. I hate Umbridge. I didn't need her to be interpersonally connected to them for me to hate her.
She popped up in that book.
She was detestable.
And you could do that. It doesn't need to be this. I understand. Kamoshida was a great little palace. Great little story. I've always said that if the game had stopped there, if that was 60 hours of just that dude, I'm like, fantastic, I'm in there. But it doesn't have to be directly interwoven with these people, especially because they're targeting people with power.
And the power is escalating. It goes from a teacher that's corrupt to a famous artist to the boss of the underworld.
So not all of them could just be like, hey, my dad's the CEO of this company. That's lucky for them. But if it was all just interpersonal stuff, it'd be like, hey, that dude wronged me. That shop over there short people out of change, teachers and all that crap. It'd be low level stuff, and that's not what they're going for.
Was a dumbass and got caught. And even before that, you were only looking into him because Makoto asked you to, and she only asked you because the principal asked her. There are so many degrees of separation between the Phantom Thieves and Kaneshiro, and so little care was given into humanizing him that he may as well.
I don't need to humanize the pieces.
Why do we need to? What was Kamoshida humanized? He was a sack of garbage. Why was he doing that? Oh, because he was just a pervert. Did that humanize him? Absolutely not. What do you mean?
Given into humanizing him that he may as well be a nameless goon. The only thing he ever does is talk about money. He doesn't even have a memorable shadow design. Kamoshida was the Naked King, Madarame wore golden robes and lavish makeup, but Kaneshiro's shadow, his most idolized form, is just him with a tiny squiggly mustache and purple skin for some reason. Then his demon form is once again just him.
So just a gold robe is remarkable? That's all it takes? Oh, he's wearing a white suit, though. I think that's remarkable. What's the difference? I'm just saying this.
And little wings because he's now a fly. The game seems to be aware of how boring of a villain he is too, because after you change his heart, you only hear about his change from a TV report in the background of a scene where Makoto and Sai are at dinner, and some discussion between the Phantom Thieves, where both previous villains and most of the future ones have large scenes dedicated to them confessing. This reveal of his heart change is so anticlimactic, it's hard to blueve that anyone gave a shit about Kaneshiro. The only thing I ever remember about him is how much I liked his voice actor in both English and Japanese, and wondering why his shadow form is Kellogg's Blueberry. After briefly talking about his fall, our hero
He's not funny at all.
Okay, I don't know if that's how the Kaneshiro thing went, and I can't argue against it. If it happened the way he said it, yes, it's not good.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% because I haven't played Persona 5 in like 2 years. And he has been provingly disingenuous with the words he says and the editing that he has done. So for all I know, Kaneshiro did have a big breakdown, and they're just showing the report of it on TV.
But if it didn't happen, yeah, that's pretty bad.
Heroes once again start to look for their next target. The fourth arc in Persona 5 is a bit different than the others. Instead of taking down some corrupt villain, the goal here is to change Futaba so she could join your party as well. This takes place during summer.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's why. They wanted to change her so she could join the party.
That's exactly why.
Takes place during summer, where between festivals and celebrations, the Phantom Thieves keep getting contacted by an anonymous hacker called Alibaba, who is starting to reveal their identities unless they change the heart of someone named Futaba Sakura. While this is happening, a different anonymous group of hackers called Medjed keep putting out public statements calling for the Phantom Thieves to turn themselves in, and threatening to crash the Japanese economy if they don't. The group decides that their best bet in taking down Medjed is to recruit Alibaba, so they go along with their request, eventually finding out that Alibaba is really Sojiro's daughter Futaba, who's become a shut-in after her mother's death. And just in case you're wondering, of course, it's Makoto who finds out that Alibaba's real identity is Futaba. But don't worry, she's totally not the new leader of the group.
Alibaba may, in fact, be... She didn't figure it out. She's deducing it.
She's putting out a theory.
That's their best lead. Why would Alibaba want to directly change the heart of Futaba Sakura, who had at this point has done nothing provable or seeable, nothing on the news? It's a kid. So it makes sense. But An is an airhead, Ryuji is impulsive and stupid, and Yusuke is on his own little planet. And Joker doesn't have a voice. So,
how about the real smart one?
Mother's death. And just in case you're wondering,
and you said that she was out of characterly stupid, so she must be smart
in character.
So she's being smart, and you're going, this is a problem that she's being smart when she was out of character for being stupid.
You're wondering, of course, it's Makoto who finds out that Alibaba's real identity is Futaba. But don't worry, she's totally not the new leader of the group.
Who cares, A, if she's the new leader of the group, and B, it does not matter if she's super smart and deducing stuff. That doesn't mean she's the leader.
Yeah.
Naoto was not the leader of the group, despite going, hey, here's my deductive reasoning on this incident.
Then they figure out that Futaba does indeed have a palace, and that it's located in her room, but they don't know what she thinks of it as. So they go to talk to her and figure out that she thinks of it as a tomb. In a scene that, once again, Makoto leads and does all the talking. Futaba's
pause. Joker does. How many times I gotta say this? Who else is gonna lead the cat? Come on, dude. Honestly. Legit. She's smart. She's the student council president, so she knows how to talk to youngsters. Why is this a problem? Does he want Joker to be the main character and just...
He wants Joker to be who Makoto is, but again, Joker is you. So it's...
desert, and in the 2D animated cutscene, we see the Phantom Thieves make their way to a pyramid at the center. Now make a note here that in the cutscene, the pyramid is massive, and there's also a very large town surrounding it on all sides. Gameplay resumes in the pyramid, where the Phantom Thieves make their way to the top and get kicked out by Shadow Futaba, where we get the required Indiana Jones run away from the boulder scene, because of course this needs to happen in the desert pyramid setting. Then the crew decides to leave.
In Indiana Jones, that happened in the jungle.
And regroup in the real world before tackling the palace for real. In the real world, before going back to the palace, the team discusses why it took the shape of a desert, and Morgana explains that Futaba...
Oh, that's just our dog.
The team discusses why it took the shape of a desert, and Morgana explains that Futaba probably doesn't know what Tokyo looks like, and probably isn't even interested in the outside world. So the whole thing is a bleak desert. You know, ignoring the fact that Futaba's only been a shut-in for about a year, that's actually a pretty reasonable explanation.
Pause.
Considering that...
when she was with her uncle, she was not allowed outside, food, water, bathing, nothing like that. When she was with her mother, yeah, sure, but... I gotta assume the trauma of all that pushed all of the memories of a dumb city out of her mind.
But never leaves her room, her dungeon probably should look extremely desolate. But wait a minute, what's this? It seems like I'm remembering back in the 2D cutscene. It happened just a literal minute ago, where the pyramid clearly had a massive village surrounding it, and it wasn't just a bleak desert at all. Hey, what's that in the corner? It almost looks like the Tokyo skyline. It doesn't seem like the game is wanting to make Morgana come off like...
Okay, I'm starting to really hate that when he thinks something is stupid, he plays this banjo music to make it, to emphasize the stupid.
That's like, it's like My Hero, where it's just like, here comes the emotional moment, here comes the feel moment, and they play that music like the end of the movie.
Okay, so explaining this. Could it not be said that Futaba herself feels isolated from everything within Tokyo? Could it not be said that she knows what Tokyo looks like because she's a master hacker and has probably seen a bunch of pictures of what Tokyo looks like? Why would she want to go to Akihabara if she doesn't even know what it really is? Two, as far as the buildings surrounding her, that could just be the things in her room surrounding her. Stuff. Are there people outside in the desert town? Or is it just stuff around her? Empty space.
That makes sense. I dig it. But where's the banjo music? I didn't feel what you
No
were
one at
saying.
all brings up the Tokyo skyline or the village, so I guess that this scene is just animated wrong, and there was just a disconnect between what the game developers were making and whoever animated the 2D cutscene. This is made even more ridiculous by the way that in the 2D cutscene, the pyramid has a city glued around it on all sides and seems quite big, but when you're actually in the palace, you need to go to the city from the pyramid, and you can clearly see that the area around the pyramid is just made up of sand and one tiny village off in the distance.
Okay, this is where you're bullshitting. If you look at the 2D animation, you can see a lot of brown area around the town.
Yeah.
Around the actual pyramid, there's a lot of brown, and then you start getting further out and you see development of the actual town. Pay attention to what you're complaining about.
No, but that's hard, and I don't want to.
Found it on all sides and seems quite big, but when you're
I could have just
in the palace, you need to go
actually.
from the pyramid. See that the area around the pyramid is just made up of sand and one tiny village off in the distance. Morgana even describes the village as being pretty far away, and Anne is surprised to see a town at all. So I guess they just didn't drive through it on the way to the pyramid, even though that they're literally shown to be driving through a town on the way to the pyramid in the animated cutscene.
Okay. Is that a town or is it just buildings?
It looks like just buildings.
I don't know if this is necessarily a town. It could just be part of the pyramid.
Yeah.
And the town that's pretty far away could be the Tokyo crap in the back. But if that's actually what happened, yes, that is bad.
Yeah.
Even though that they're literally shown to be driving through a town on the way to the pyramid.
Not
in the
worthy of
animated
banjo
cutscene.
music, though.
Now, when it comes to Futaba's dungeon itself, there's a lot to say about it. For starters, why is it a pyramid at all? Futaba has nothing to do with Egypt, and neither does her mom or Sojiro.
Pause.
She's never shown.
She sees it as a tomb. A pyramid is a tomb for pharaohs. She's the ruler of her room.
In which she feels like she's going to die in.
Done.
Any particular interest in history, old ruins, or anything.
Pause.
The only justification.
Medjed and both Alibaba are Egyptian references. Can people not have interest outside of nerd stuff? I used to be really into Greek mythology.
Ew, were you?
Yeah, like Prometheus and Zeus and Poseidon.
What?
It was cool.
No, it's not.
You don't like history.
No, I
that's
don't.
not history. I know that's not history,
Yeah.
but it's like a history.
Even history adjacent things I'm not a fan of. So
yeah, no, that's you're coming in with your bias. But no, I used to really be into that. I used to really dig it.
Okay.
Can she not just have an interest in Egyptian mythology? She was the creator of Medjed, and she spawned off into Alibaba. Those are three separate tomb pyramid references done. House is a desert. Isolated. Deserted. We're done. What's the problem?
From a tomb, but this isn't really explained since.
Yes, it is! Made something that fit better like what? A funeral home? Right on the nose? It's literally a tomb for pharaohs. Literally! That's the purpose! Did you watch The Prince of Egypt? It's a good movie.
The reason for her delusion is that she thinks she killed her mom, and it's not like they couldn't have made it literally anything else.
Why is it
Literally.
always...
Yeah, it could just be literally anything else.
So, if it was just a forest, it would have been better.
A football arena, a cat shelter,
A car show.
Anything. Literally
would've
anything.
been better.
Yep.
A hotel room. Big old hotel. Oh, that's better than a pyramid.
Literally anything. It could have been her room again. It could have been Joker's house. She's never seen it, but that's literally anything other than a tomb.
Hey, just in her dad's face.
It's just his face. Like those custom smashed stages.
And he's just jumping from platform to platform. It's like his eyebrows.
You know what? That probably would have been better. I'd rock it.
I would both love and hate that.
That's like, well, this is weird.
For dungeon even has air conditioning and is quite big, so it doesn't even come off like a claustrophobic tomb. In a meta sense,
Her room has air conditioning.
it's obvious that the setting of a pyramid was chosen because it's an iconic.
What are tombs?
Yeah, that's why it was chosen, because it's an iconic thing, and not for the reasons the game provide.
The ancient Egyptians built pyramids as tombs for pharaohs and their queens. Done. We're done here.
An iconic scenario in heist, just like stealing from a king in a castle, stealing the most valuable piece from a museum, and robbing a bank. But Futaba as a character does not have anything to do with this.
First off, the Indiana Jones that he showed, that was not a pyramid. What pyramid heist movies are we talking about?
The Mummy.
One, and I guess the Mummy spinoffs, but
subsequent Mummy movies.
in the line of Mummy, I guess that counts. But is the Mummy iconic enough to influence Persona 5?
I like it.
Is that enough?
Futaba is a hacker and a high-tech based character, and there is an attempt to explain this by saying that the pyramid has air conditioning and some squiggly PNG pixels and floating code around the area. But this doesn't feel nearly significant enough, and it seems more like an addition made to retroactively fit the setting to Futaba's character. The setting of a dungeon not matching its owner might not have even been that much of an issue.
She feels like her room is a tomb.
Her room is very technological. We're done here.
If the rest of the dungeon wasn't garbage as well. Even using the premise of a pyramid, the environment inside is extremely dull and inconsistent. There are 3 types of interactable statues with different animal heads on them, but the same models are used all over.
Dude! Break it and get your thing! Why are you complaining about the statues? Are they supposed to be 100 different models? Do you want the thing or no? I don't care. I don't see how anybody cares. This isn't like, oh, this character just completely disappeared from this thing. Oh, well, I don't care. No, this is nothing. I've been avoiding using the word nitpick, but my goodness. This is, who cares? You're complaining about statues?
Now, I'm not saying he's nitpicking, but he's definitely picking nits.
Because just going, oh, that's a nitpick. That's
it's such a throwaway thing,
yes,
like dismissive.
It's just an evergreen whatever. But this doesn't matter. This affects not the story, not the design, nothing. This is not a negative. This is not a point.
It's not a negative nor positive. It just is.
If it was 100 different statues, all of different pop culture icons, or just all different tombs or Egyptian hieroglyphics or whatever, I would have the same opinion if it was just one. If it was just a square. They're literally the same to me.
The big L7. It's a square.
With different animal heads on them, but the same models are used all over the place that are also uninteractable. You can use Joker Vision to figure out which statues are interactable, but there's no other dungeon that reuses.
Hey, maybe it's the one with the Anubis heads.
Maybe
those are the ones you break.
Out which statues are interactable, but there's no other dungeon that reuses assets lazily like this, and there's almost no other decorations in the dungeons. The textures around the pyramid also look like shit, more so than any other part of the game, and it by far makes it the ugliest dungeon. Most of the dungeon looks like it hasn't fully loaded in yet. All the walls and floors look incredibly low res. For a game that
No, pause. Don't show another game doing it. Show what you mean by that, because I saw none of it. You just go, oh, it's like, apparently it's like this game. But you're not showing it.
The statue head that Joker was climbing on did not look great.
Didn't look great. But that's one thing.
Section looks like a Unity asset flip game. The choice in any...
Okay, yeah, he just showed it again. So he got nothing.
Is that your only point? This one head looks not good?
The asset flip game. The choice in enemy personas for this dungeon is also something I'm stumped by. The previous dungeons have had personas that generally fit with the palace owner, for the most part, and they usually had 10 to 12 personas.
So, you have 2 that did it, 1 that didn't, and then another that doesn't do it that fits more with the palace than the owner. So it's almost like there's not really a thematic through line of how they're throwing these enemies at you.
Unless you force that square peg into that round hole. Just jam it in there.
Just jam it in.
with a couple more one-offs as mini-bosses. Futaba's dungeon only features 7, with the addition of 2 mini-bosses. Every persona in the list is related to ancient Egypt, and they were clearly chosen to fit the theme of the dungeon. But it's to the detriment of the gameplay and gets repetitive very quickly.
Oh no, but this is a bad thing. It fits the theme, but it's bad.
Here's
this Naruto music. I recognized it. Put down your comment.
So it's bad that it does the theme of the palace. The theme of the palace as opposed to the owner, and it's to the detriment of it. For what reason?
He said there's not enough, so there are 4 less personas, and that means that it's not as varied.
Enemies.
And it gets boring because there are 4 less personas than the last one. They're personas. You can recruit them. They're personas.
Of the dungeon, but it's to the detriment of the gameplay and gets repetitive.
Okay, how's it to the detriment of the gameplay? How does this affect the gameplay in any level?
And it gets repetitive because you're using your fist monkey team.
Of the dungeon, but it's to the detriment of the gameplay and gets repetitive very quickly since the dungeon is quite long. You see every persona in the dungeon by the time you hit the first checkpoint, which is only about 25% of the way through. Anubis is also in this lineup, and he has both types of insta-kills, and with how frequent you're going to encounter him, it's only a matter of time before you get the unlucky insta-kill hit on Joker.
Never did.
I also equally did not. Anecdotal.
Progress. The level design for this dungeon is also the worst yet, being blatantly made up of hallways, and it's filled with invisible walls to not let you get spotted, as well as gating you.
Go back where he just goes, it's just a hallway, and he shows, yes, the hallway connecting larger places.
Blatantly made up of hallways, and it's filled with invisible walls.
What do you want? What? This same in other Persona games, same in the Final Fantasy games that you showed. At one point in Final Fantasy X, it's just trees and it's literally just a winding path. And you already showed this invisible wall thing. This is your one example of the invisible wall thing. Yeah, that's bad. You got any other ones, homie? Or you just going, no, I'm showing this one, so just take my word for it. There are invisible halls in this, invisible walls in this. And look, here's one, so there's many of them.
As well as gating you in jumping sections where they make no sense. It should be no problem to jump between some of these gaps to get to the destination, but the game straight up doesn't let you because it's not the intended path, even when the gap that allows you to cross is bigger than the one it doesn't. There's one.
You didn't show that there. That gap was not bigger. The one he was trying to jump was bigger.
Yeah, that is totally bigger.
Yeah, no.
Oh yeah, that's horribly disingenuous.
Yeah,
yeah, no, that's garbage.
Show me an example of this.
Yeah, that would have helped.
The gap that allows you to cross is bigger than the one it doesn't.
Nope,
there's one puzzle here that requires you to match up a sequence of 1s and 0s to these floating red and blue balls, which tie into the technology theme. But there's also an Egyptian mural puzzle that once again makes no sense for Futaba. After making your way,
it makes sense for the palace she's in and everything.
This is insanity. You can't have an Egyptian hieroglyph in this pyramid. It doesn't make any sense. Your words.
After making your way through the mess of this dungeon, you find that the top floor is gated off by Futaba's cognition of her room being impenetrable, much like what happened with Madarame. But in this case, since it's the end of the dungeon, this issue is just rolled into sending the calling card as well, and doesn't kick you out and force you to spend an extra day dealing with it. After leaving the dungeon, the crew manages to convince Futaba to let her in her room, gives her the calling card, and then goes back to steal the treasure.
Futaba the best! She did all of this so she could change herself!
So good.
I love Futaba so much.
Great. Number 2. Shut up, Mike.
Oh,
No, he's a food. He goes.
He's big Futaba.
Yeah, okay. No, he's one of those. I dig the merits of Haru, but Futaba though, and I'm like, no, I dig.
Okay, yeah, I can understand that. Wait, is Haru number 2 for him though?
I believe it is.
Okay, then yeah, we're completely fine.
But then it probably got mixed up a little bit because of the new chick in Persona Royal.
I can understand that as well.
Mad good.
But Haru.
So
So.
Rocket ship to the moon.
and goes back to steal the treasure. After reaching the top of the pyramid, Futaba's mom is in the form of the flying sphinx and attacks the party. Once again, you can't deal damage and have to defend until the game actually lets you fight the boss. What happens next is truly baffling, as we see Futaba use the navigation app that was already on her phone to go into her own palace. While there, she meets with her own shadow, who knows the truth of Futaba's mom was actually killed by the government and did attempts to convince Futaba to see the truth. Futaba leaves for the top and sees you all fighting the Sphinx mom, breaks down once again, and then we get another scene of Futaba's shadow telling her the truth, causing Futaba to gain courage, turns her shadow into a UFO persona, gets tentacled by her own persona, and then joins the battle, spawning in ballistas to let you attack the Sphinx mom because she could change her own cognition at will. But the thing is, this entire sequence makes no sense with the established rules of how palaces and the metaverse work. Shadows are supposed to be the realization of a person's twisted desire in physical form.
No.
No.
It's supposed to be the person's true self deep down.
Yes. That's all. And if we're going by Persona 4 rules, it's basically this.
Even if it is the twisted self, and it very well maybe. I'm not 100% on that. The twisted version of Futaba is one that addresses the issues that were plaguing
Cold
her.
hard truth.
Cold hard truth,
As
no
opposed
feeling.
to shutting it down and not realizing it or just going, I'm just gonna die here. No, she's just like, face this. This is what happened and you know it.
In physical form. Kamoshida thinks he runs the school, so his shadow is a literal king and the castle is his school. Madarame thinks he's the greatest artist to ever exist, so his shadow and palace are decked out in expensive things, but Futaba is a person who...
What's that supposed to mean? And you didn't show Kanashiro.
No, he didn't.
So you're already like,
Yep.
you're losing ground.
100%.
You had one more person.
Yep.
And you couldn't do it.
That's that eye patch wolf leaving out Boo and all of them just to make his point.
believes the lie she was fed about being the reason for her mother's death. So shouldn't her shadow also reflect that?
No. Her shadow is the truth. The true person she is deep down.
The truth
maybe twisted knows. Too much.
Yes. Face it. Accept it. And then she accepts it, and then she gets her persona. What's the problem?
Be a broken version of Futaba who fully believes the lies and can barely function. Instead, her shadow knows the truth.
That's Futaba.
Yeah.
Why would her shadow be her exactly? That's not a twisted version of her.
Help you along the way through the dungeon by giving you a map and giving
because Futaba deep down in her true self wants to change. That's what she really wants deep down.
Yes.
Hints about where to go next. The reverse of this should have happened, with the real Futaba knowing logically the story didn't add up, but her heart can't help but feel this way, and the distorted version of her is being broken and giving into the doubts that maybe
isn't it more interesting that this doesn't follow the usual plot line and instead it goes in the opposite direction?
No, not right here. This is a problem here.
Yeah, okay.
For some reason.
So this isn't cliche. You wanted it to be the cliche.
Hey guys, change my heart because for some reason deep down within myself, I'm weak, but I'm strong and I know that the government killed my mom and I'm going to prove it. But deep down within myself, I'm scared or something.
And I do believe the lie.
What's the flip? How do you change that?
Why would she need to turn?
Yes. Why would she need her heart changed? If she's like, I believe that the government killed my mom,
she would prove that.
Yes.
She's a master hacker.
It really was all her fault. Futaba also gets to see her shadow in the real world, which doesn't happen before or ever again, and there's no explanation given for this. Futaba does experience hallucinations, but this interaction with her shadow is clearly real. There's also no
based on
reason to continue the fight with the Sphinx Mom after Futaba joins the party. Futaba knows that everything in the palace is fake and she has control over it, shown by her.
Yeah, but if you die there, it's still not gonna be good.
Yeah.
It's just like if people die in dreams for a heart attack, even if they realize it's a dream, they could still die from it. It means literally nothing.
Yeah. This is also just like, hey, my friends are here to help me, and they can. I'm showing that they can help me take down my demons and other people's demons and whole thing there.
I want to play P5.
It's really good.
Wanting ballistas.
Well, not according to this.
So why couldn't she just make...
Just another amazing line from the best written game ever. This is my heart's world, right? Hacking into my distortion should be no problem for me. Yes, because it's your world. It's just like a lucid dream.
We don't know the limits of this. She puts up a ballistic missile and she changes people's positions. She doesn't just wholesale snap away enemies.
Yeah, it's not like she Thanos snaps her mom away and it's just like that's the
we don't
end.
know. It looks like she can do very minor things like this. Even within her heart world, she just pulls out a thing that helps them defeat them. She doesn't say I can do anything because this is my world. She just says I can change the cognition.
Is from thin air. So why couldn't she just make the enemy disappear? He doesn't...
And then he just literally says, why couldn't she just make the enemy disappear?
Why couldn't Kamoshida just make it disappear since that's his world? He's the king of the castle, right?
Nah, it's because the actual Futaba is there. So he's saying, she knows what this is, so why shouldn't she just change it? It's almost like this is a magical world that just doesn't go, hey, just because you know about it, you can change everything.
It's
should work any different. Futaba even realizes earlier that her mom actually loves her and she wanted the best for her. So since her cognition is already changed,
so maybe she needs to actually defeat that image of her mother that hated her. As opposed to just snapping it away.
Makes sense.
evil Sphinx mom who tried to kill her shouldn't even exist, since the idea is already out of her mind. Morgana tells us that Futaba's palace doesn't actually have a treasure, since the treasure was Futaba herself, so that gives us even less of a reason to continue the boss fight. Just take Futaba and get out. That's all they had to do. Once again, the meta answer is that they needed a
But that doesn't solve the problem.
Nope.
There's a literal monster in your mind, in your heart. You gotta defeat that monster, and then you get a nice little, hey, I'm your mother, I actually loved you, all that nice little scene right there. Go help the world, go be with your friends, go on, you don't need me no more. Get out the room. You get that whole thing. That helps her. Because the next time we see her, she's out the room and getting curry, and Sakura and Sojiro just like, what the f is going on here? It changed her.
Big set piece enemy could be shown off, but narratively, it just leaves you wondering why anyone even bothered with it. Not even
anyone. Who cares?
Makoto is the one who attempts to talk sense into Futaba, though, so I guess that's close enough.
But,
you hadn't even said what you were saying yet.
That's on. That's on. Why isn't Futaba, the F in Futaba capitalized?
I mean, it's not like where you live in a world of spell check and autocorrect where this shouldn't even be an issue anymore. You know, sometimes things just slip through the cracks and you're going to get some lines that are problematic, and, you know, sometimes it happens when you're just doing a 5-hour script. Sometimes things are going to slip through.
This actively detracts from the video, and I'm going to spend 10 minutes on it.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
I guess I can't help it.
Here we go. The origins of the letter F is thus.
Even bothered with it. Not even the ultra genius Makoto ever thinks of it. Thinking about Futaba being her own treasure brings up even more questions, since the Phantom Thieves explicitly told Futaba to stay home and not come with them to steal her treasure. So if Futaba hadn't wandered into the dungeon by herself, what were they going to do? There was nothing there to steal to change Futaba's heart. Not only that, but Morgana even reacts with surprise when Futaba comes into her own dungeon, and worries what it will do to the palace. But then also knows that she's her own treasure? I guess the only
He could figure it out at that point. Hey, looking around, where is the treasure? There's nothing. Maybe she is. It's deduction. It stands to reason. Anybody logical would think that would go down that line of reason. Either it's nothing or it's her.
And they have never encountered where it's a nothing. So maybe it's her.
And they're still figuring out the rules, as this is their third palace. Fourth. This is their fourth one.
Alice, but then also knows that she's her own treasure? I guess the only consistent thing here is how inconsistent Morgana is, as always. There's also the question of why the
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Also the question of why the calling card was even needed to be handed to Futaba, since she was her own treasure and is shown to already have the metaverse navigation app before getting the calling card. Would she have not materialized in her own dungeon if she had not read it? Would she take a ghostly form?
It's almost like the calling card is meant to strike fear into the hearts of the people and change their perception of what's going on around them.
Almost. It's almost like after they got the calling card to Futaba, it went immediately to the shadow and like, okay, they're coming. And then it went all the way up to 100%. Almost.
If she had not read it, would she take a ghostly form? Who knows? The devs probably didn't even think about the implications.
Probably not.
Yeah. Who knows?
Because it went up to 100. And I'm sure the devs did think about that and went, I don't know why anybody would think that.
Yeah. We're doing this thing, so the thing is going to get done. So why are we thinking of alternative? What happens if Kamoshiro gets stabbed in real life as opposed to a calling card? What does that do to his palace?
Hey, Johnson, shut the up, you dumb bitch. No one's thinking this. Johnson, you know what? Clear out your desk. You're done.
This had on the mechanics of the world. Anyways, Futaba does help you kill her Sphinx mom, which causes a ghost of Futaba's real mom to appear to praise Futaba, and then they say they love each other in an emotional scene. But since this is happening in Futaba's palace, doesn't that mean that this is just a memory of her mom? It's weird since she seems surprised that she appeared.
No, it could be the after image of the memory of her mom. What she expects her mom to say.
It could be her perception of her mom, what she would want her to say in this situation.
Had control of her own palace. The scene is played as if it was her real mom, but if it is, then it's magic and it's never explained.
It's not
you
her
all run
real
away from the
mom.
collapsing pyramid and get back into the real world, where Futaba helps you take down Medjed and their terrorist threats, and then goes to sleep for multiple days. After she wakes up, she reluctantly joins the party, and the group slowly eases her in. But she never has another hallucination, delusion, or any issues ever again. You just magicked away all of them.
It's almost like you changed her heart. It's almost like this is a provable thing that happens. It's almost like this is exactly what she wanted. It's almost like she learned the truth of her parents and accepted it. It's almost like that. But no, that couldn't be it. They just go away.
Almost.
If only Johnson had thought about that.
If only Johnson wasn't fired the day before. Or 9 days before. We don't know at this point. If only he wasn't fired and he could have spoken out these things, that almost would have turned it to 100%. Like Futaba's palace did once she got the calling card.
Oh boy.